are literally shaping the planet.
Purpose is the only pathway to a regenerative future.
We have a choice to stay with the status quo or to change.
What is the point of trying to be just resilient when we can actually innovate?
It's a pleasure to be here with you all. First, I'm going to be introducing Chris, who just joined by phone. There was some internet outage or something like that, right, Chris?
We've got a Comcast internet outage in Miramar, Florida right now, literally 3 minutes before I was supposed to join. So sorry to not be there on video and see all these visual cues when I should or should not speak, but I'll do my best.
That's great. Thank you so much for joining. So Chris Frank is, let me just briefly introduce his background. Chris Frank serves as Divisional Manager for Florida Operations with Windsor Properties. His previous roles include Director of Asset Management with True America Multifamily and Portfolio Operations Director at Avalon Bay. He is, one of our industry veterans with 12 years experience working in this industry. So welcome to the call, Chris. And can you tell us a bit more about your experience at Windsor?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me. So I've got a portfolio of properties here in Florida. I am a lover of operations. I think a lot of people get into this line of work in property management in hopes to kind of move up the ladder and get further away from the customer. I love staying close to the customer. I enjoy the mental chess of the whole thing and certainly the customer experience elements as well.
Excellent. How have you been involved in the customer experience process?
Sure. So, tons of customer service training, sales training, right? We've got to really understand how to engage our prospects, close them. And then, once they become residents, that's a whole nother animal. And it's, a really unique line of work, really, where, the people that purchase your product use your product in front of you every day for a year or more. And it creates a heck of a lot of accountability for us.
I bet it is. So also in the panel, we have another industry insider, David Perez. So David is the COO, Chief Operating Officer of Carroll, and he has a very interesting background. You were previously on consulting, right?
That's right. I've been just about everywhere and just making my way into multifamily 3.5 years ago.
Excellent. So first of all, what made you move into multifamily?
It was a bit of what I was asked to come do was kind of operations driven. So like Chris was talking about, I think I had found myself in wanting to lead and change some operations and have really been focused on internally the first couple of years, and then more recently focused outwardly on how we impact customer and the customer experience more recently.
And can you tell us a bit more about Carroll? Because it's really interesting. You do everything from investing to property management. So what exactly does Carroll do? Yeah,
so we're an owner-operator. We've got about 80% of our portfolio that we own through joint ventures and joint venture partners, and then 20% that we third-party manage. We really take everything from acquisition all the way through disposition and manage all the assets and aspects in between, from asset management, investment management, construction management, and we actually have a strong IT and marketing teams internally that we've built out some robust functions around.
Excellent. And also, we have another person in our panel. He is our industry outsider. Basically, when I was putting together this panel, I wanted to bring someone that could give us a different perspective. But also, I wanted for it to be not someone coming from tech, but someone coming from physical assets, and that have pretty much certain comparables with the real estate industry, being some of the most expensive assets that we are going to own in our lives. So Jose is working at Honda R&D Americas. He is the senior manager and studio chief designer. So for someone that doesn't work in the auto industry, what exactly do you do?
Alejandro, nice to meet you. Same to you, Dave, David, and everybody else. And well, I've been with Honda for over 23 years. I pretty much went straight from college to Honda. I always wanted to be an interior designer and be inside the space. And I managed to go from being a designer to a manager to become a senior manager. And right now, my responsibility is I overview everything that we do in the studio, managing all our aspects of the production vehicles. And that includes all the phases of developments, evaluations, and execution for all the models that we sell for North America. Just to give you an idea, I mean, if you're familiar with Honda Pilot, Honda Odyssey, Acura MDX, the big vehicles that we do at Honda. So I'm responsible for the creative output of the studio, those vehicles.
Awesome. So great. So I would guess that you need to have a lot of interaction with the customer, understand their interest, their changing trends with such a fast-moving industry as the automotive.
Yeah, so at Honda, we take pride of being connected to the customer, and we've been successful over the years of giving, I would say, above expectations products in value and usability. But I mean, in the last couple of years, we've been falling behind with all the advances in technology. It's not like we were sleeping at the wheel, but we cannot focus too much on the space, the whole aspect of the car architecture, and know how the technology interacts inside the space. And we pay the price. We used to be on top of customer by J.D. Powers and third-party agencies. And right now we're working all the way up. And as we're working again, trying to connect with the customer and understand what do they want, actually having embrace the customer. So instead of listen to, we used to say, okay, we know better. Right now we're looking to embrace the customer and see how we can incorporate these new technologies to be successful.
That's very interesting, because also one other key similarity between the industries is that you need to be really future proof. You need to be forward thinking. It's something that is going to be in the market for the next 5-7 years.
So we're working on a window of 5, 7, 10 years. And it's very similar to the real estate situation right now, because we have some big mega trends that they completely change what it used to be. Let's say the car industry, it was pretty much established. Nothing changed. We used to base our model on adding features or different trim levels. But right now we have huge trends related to electrification, to autonomous vehicles. COVID completely changed the dynamic, people using less vehicles. We have trends related to connectivity, connected services, to, we say sharing environments like Uber and Lyft. So it is a completely different game what it used to be 5 years ago.
Yeah, but so also on this, making the parallel on this question, on a changing industry, on how the user experience is changing all the time. Chris, in 12 years that you have been working in this industry, how have you seen the experience, especially in leasing a property, change over time?
Right as I was getting into the industry, this was still like the last days of the apartment guide, the physical, go to your street corner and pull out a big magazine apartment guide. So obviously a lot's changed there, internet, SEO, on and on. And now I don't think it's ever changed more than it has in the last, say, 6 months. In terms of, I think every company was really interested in doing virtual tours, self-guided tours. Everybody was kind of dipping their toe in. Nobody had really mastered it. and this accelerated things, right? People really had to adapt fast, and I mean, I've seen a lot of our competitors and certainly ourselves really do a great job with this. But that's how it's changed, right? People now can tour your apartment from their home. They can get videos a lot easier, and there's other properties that want to do touchless, self-guided tours. Show up, there's keys waiting for you, and here's a map and kind of instructions on how to go through everything. And I think people are still finding their way through the process, but that's certainly how it's changed.
And do you feel that it's a long-term change, or is it something that is just going to go away once the pandemic?
That's a great question. I do think it's a long-term change. I think that one of the reasons why companies had been looking at it for so long is they felt that there was a cost savings involved, and certainly expanded hours, right? You don't have to be a slave to, a 9-to-5 schedule. People can tour your community around the clock now, or, can virtual tour it from their home, around the clock. So I do think that it's certainly a permanent aspect. I think, there's still some adapting for the property management companies, but I think it's a permanent change.
Have you seen the same, David, on Carl?
Yes. What I'll say is yes, and the change was coming. The adoption certainly was fast and furious. I think what's interesting is how strong it's going to stick, and how much it's going to be here forever. And it certainly is what I call another option. I think what you're still going to have, though, is that 70 to 80% of people that want to buy, that still need that personal touch. Because I think it's not like buying, it's still a considered purchase. It's still like buying a car. It's still a large dollar amount that somebody is spending with you. Even on a more workforce type asset, they're spending $10,000 a year with you to live with you. And that is a large amount of money for somebody to come in and plunk down and not have 100% conviction on what they want. So there is this elongation of the customer journey in which they certainly come in and they know a whole lot more than they ever did. And even in the last 3 years, I've seen it explode in how much we now expect the customer to even know more than our people on site know about the property, today's pricing, all those things. So now we have to really be key and in tune with the experience and matching them up with what's going on. So I think all these extra bells and whistles to really meet them where they are in their customer journey is key for us to keep going.
Oh, and I think it's super important what you're saying in terms of there's also an emotional connection involved. Same with cars. We don't just choose a car because it's a good car. We also create an emotional connection with that asset. So that's really interesting on how giving more options to the customers could lead into a better user experience. And you're touching on something very important. Information. When you're purchasing something as expensive, you better have as much information as possible, but also things that are relevant to you. So how are you adapting to that? How are you sharing enough information without overwhelming the customer?
It's really coming down to a blend of technology. So we're trying to integrate our websites to be as dynamic as possible. We really built an architecture there, leveraging Drupal and some of the API calls that we can do to have pricing, to have availability, to have all the information that somebody's going to want. And then we're ramping up an internal sort of reservation center that's going to be both human and AI focused in our ability to answer the initial questions. And the whole goal is just to get them to the next step in which they want to visit or they want to tour. Because getting them to that stage is really all about giving them the information that they need to feel comfortable with moving along in their journey.
And you have been talking a lot about technology, but what's the place of the agents in this new world? How do they need to adapt?
Well, it's all about leveraging and understanding the sales cycle. So it's much more about service in a much more service-oriented framework. We're not eliminating what they're doing. What we're eliminating is the need for them to be data jockeys, essentially, right? Oh, let me go research that for you. No, let me help you craft the experience that you're expecting here and understand and help you get that picturesque, what you're looking for. We don't need to go and, I hate when somebody calls and says, oh, well, let me look up what this is. It's like, well, I already know what the price should be. Now just help me connect what I want to see myself in. And there's still that intangible that a leasing professional or a sales professional needs to help connect the dots for somebody.
Yeah. Chris, are you seeing the same at Windsor?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, actually. And it was something I wanted to talk about in, how things have changed. I totally agree with David that some of the biggest changes you're seeing these days are kind of lead to tour, that space and time from lead to tour and how you can solve with technology, automation, whether it be AI, text bot, type platforms, where you can get people the information they need, again, round the clock. And leave your people to do the true objection overcoming and rapport building, in person with, once they show up. So yeah, we are seeing that, and that's certainly a big focus here as well.
Jose, we have been hearing about data, about how to leverage that in order to improve the experience. What's your experience on the auto industry?
So just a little bit to recap, listening to David and Chris, is very similar what we're doing in the car industry. We call it onboarding experience. And it's something that didn't even exist before, but right now we have so many features inside the vehicle, so much technology, we have to be able to train the user before get inside the vehicle so they know all the features that we have available for them. And the dealer experience, everything seems to be changing. We used to go to the dealer. Now we have more and more people buying online. It's something that is Tesla was pioneer and took some of the advantage having the dealerless model. And again, things are moving really fast. I was surprised about how similar these changes are happening both in the car industry and the real estate industry. We do work with a lot of data, and then we verify that data about features. There's so many things we can add technology-wise to the vehicle, but we don't want to overwhelm the driver. I think the biggest difference is the main focus of the user experience is always safety first. So you want to make sure we're going at 60 miles per hour. Anything you need to do, you understand you can do it safely. There is a trust between you and the car, especially now that we're moving closer to autonomous vehicles. So we're working on that as a main goal is for safety. After receiving a lot of data from customers and wish and wants trends, we do a lot of prototyping to see what actually works, and then we do a lot of focus groups. So we rely a lot on customer experience firsthand. We listen, we use the word empathy, so we don't consider ourselves we own the truth. We actually listen to what people are saying, how they use, how they want to connect their devices, what are their expectations. And then we make alterations and prototypes and we test them again. So far it's been good for us. And I think that's the way that the industry is moving right now.
So it's super interesting that you're talking about all the user testing on truly understanding and empathizing with end customer to create something for them. How much is this also true for an industry as real estate? And whoever wants to answer this. Chris?
Sorry, Alejandro, what was the question? I'm happy to answer.
Sure. So user testing. So how much are you doing user testing to truly understand the customer needs?
Yeah, so I mean, we certainly can do it internally, and we we probably survey our prospects to death over the virtual touring processes and the self-guided touring process. So it's something that I think is really important to us, but I still think we're pretty much in the early stages here of really. I would imagine in Jose's line of work, they're probably doing a lot more user testing, and they probably have it down to much more of a science than we do. But it is certainly important to us, and it is top of mind right now for us, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just echo what Chris was saying. We have set up surveys throughout our resident experience, whether it's a tour, a move-in, a work order gets completed and everything on the back end. And we're monitoring both NPS score and overall performance scores across the board. And I think our next evolution is how do we move the needle on some of these? So we are benchmarking ourselves. We're still in the nascent stage here on really leveraging and understanding what's moving the needle on some of these things and how we can undo it better. The tricky part is that the apartment industry and even like two apartments that are next to each other are so different that you can't sort of rule out so many variables that exist in how you do that testing. So it really is you've got to do it over and over and over and have a volume of results from a statistical standpoint that you can start to really analyze. And I don't think we have that yet to be able to really get in there and understand what's truly moving the needle on that.
Yeah, makes sense. And I think it also sounds a lot like the agent is becoming more of a matchmaking process instead of a selling process on, okay, this is the one that I'm going to push for you, to moving on, this is the right one for you.
That makes a lot of sense from where I'm standing, Alejandro. We see the people that were pushed into apartments that were hard sold, they tend to be, to kind of use an NPS reference, there are detractors. Like it's just not a good experience for them, and that doesn't benefit either party. So that really rings true here.
So we still have a couple more minutes. So I would like to just close with a quick reflection from each one of you on how can we improve this process. We have already talked about a few ideas, but if you have something specific, I think it would be great.
I just like to tag along what David said about you have two different apartments and two different wards, same apartment, but two different situations. So it's very similar. Because in the automotive industry, you have one car, you have a completely different user. The way we are tackling that is try to do it from the functional aspect and from the emotional aspect. Let's say from the functional aspect, it needs to look usable. It needs to look usable for somebody who's going to college and needs to be useful for somebody who's retired. So when something looks useful, usable, it is not a generational thing. And then the emotional side that is what it gives you freedom to connect and then do something more specific or more customized. So in this case, we talk about a desire to be used for a long time. So we want to design an interface inside a vehicle that somebody wants to use for a long time, not just use it and say, I'm fed up with this is complicated, I don't want to touch it. So we set up our own challenge and we try to raise the bar and execute. But again, I'm very surprised about the similarities between the automotive industry and the real estate industry.
Yeah. Sorry, David?
Yeah, so, to continue down that, Jose, we've always kind of considered ourselves a little bit down that path, just given what I originally started out with an apartment being a considered purchase and somebody is essentially buying a car with you every single year in our industry, and dovetailing on what Chris said around customer experience and where that's going. I think truly going back and understanding the digital experience that somebody is going through today as your customer, and then aligning your organization on how you want to enable those processes so you can serve that customer, and then putting technology on top of that to provide more personalization is sort of the correct approach, or at least something that we're trying to do here at Carroll. And we've spent a good bit of time. I think COVID got in the way a little bit, but it also probably sped up a couple of things. It made some people have to make some hard choices quicker, and get some of our partners further along on it. But it's been great to sort of explore and get back to the root of the customer on that.
Cool.
Yeah, and then for my end, I think we've hit home really hard on multifamily. I really don't have much to add to that, but I will say, as someone that's in the market to purchase a home, from the real estate side, I would love to see some processes improved there in terms of ease of receiving information without going into a hard sell, and whether that's done via websites or what. But just to be able to know how old a roof is, how new this is or that is. I mean, there's just so much information out there that I have to get into an hour-long conversation with a realtor in a hard sales process, so I wanted to add that little tidbit there for you, Alejandro, about what could be done in the real estate purchasing experience.
Absolutely, and I completely agree. In fact, our vision for At Home is simplifying this, helping people really match with their properties that they are more comfortable with, and also make it predictive. Because one thing that needs to happen is also make this at scale. Because yes, we can go one by one asking every single person what they want, but to make this truly scalable, we also need to leverage data, as David was saying.
Certainly.
So I think that's pretty much almost all our time. Let me see if there's any questions from the audience. No, I think we're good. So we can continue the conversation on Slack. Please reach out if you agree with us. If you don't agree with us, we would love to understand what's happening in the industry. Well, it was a pleasure having you. Thanks, David. Thanks, Jose. Thanks, Chris, for joining.
Thanks, Alejandro. Appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Good to meet you all.
Yeah, that's
Great day. Same here.